Hey, it's Anthony Simone with Sherwood Marketing, and you're listening to the S.M.E Stories podcast. Let's do this.
You're now listening to the next great small business podcast. Welcome to the S.M.E Stories podcast, where it is all about small businesses in Canada. And here's your host, Ken Alfred.
Hey everybody, thanks for on the show. We got a great episode today with Anthony Simone. Now a little bit about Anthony. After building multiple seven-figure online and offline businesses from scratch, Anthony turned his attention to helping other small and medium-sized companies scale profits by leveraging his unique, no BS approach to marketing and sales. You'll often hear him say, results are all that matter. For more than 16 years, his passion has helped businesses and professional service providers grow sales and profits by effectively leveraging unique marketing and sales strategies, both online and offline. Anthony has what some call a gift to find new and hidden profit opportunities and deploy systems and processes that predictably attract, convert, and retain high-quality clients and customers. Anthony has worked along with some of the most brilliant business minds on the planet, brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to his clients. He successfully built 3 brick-and-mortar service-based businesses and has co-founded 4 successful online consulting and training companies, serving more than 10,000 clients. He became a highly sought-after business strategist that is known for getting things done. Anthony's also married and 2 children through adoption and resides in Austin, Texas. So we're going to have a great time talking to Anthony today because I think we're going to talk about the sales and marketing that can help pretty much almost any business, small, medium, or even large. So sit back and absorb. All right, now let's go to the tips from the pro segment here. So these are more specifically related to, I guess, for small business owners to ask questions related to sales and marketing because, Anthony is the revenue recapturing specialist here. So we'll try to see if we can find some good questions that he can hopefully answer.
Now it's time for tips from the pro.
Question number 1, of course, this is going to be a gimme. Are there any quick fixes that in sales and marketing that I can actually apply that can generate a return?
One of the best things you could do is learn how to build rapport. And rapport, a lot of people think rapport starts when you're talking to somebody like we are here, but it doesn't. It starts before you get on. Like what you did before, like we're getting to know each other, you researched who I was, what I do. That's what everybody should be doing. Is before you get on a call with somebody, start to learn about who they are, what they do, things that they like. It's so easy these days. You can just go on their social media and you could find stuff that you can align them with. Now, I'm not saying make some stuff up.
Right.
Because that would be out of integrity. But there is always something that you can genuinely align with that you can bring up on the call when you do talk to them. Again, we started before the call to build the rapport. Now we're on the call, and now we get to implement that and truly build that genuine rapport with people. Now, once you do that, you're going to find that you're going to build relationships a lot better. And naturally, now you want to get better at like the kind of the sales process, but you don't want it to be a sales process per se. You want it to be a really good conversation to where you are building a relationship. And to build a relationship, you got to build rapport first. You'll never close a sale without rapport.
Yeah, it's almost like that. Some of the analogy of like, remember how some, back in the day, or maybe I don't know if it's still current to this day, the deals are made on the golf course. You see the old, executives golfing together, and you're like, deals are closing that way. That's how they discuss business. They don't talk in a boardroom. They don't talk in an office. They talk on the golf course. Right. But I'm sure that that's a vision that we see. But, it's that whole thing of, it's that whole thing we have to keep harping on is that the rapport and the trust that you have with the person you're talking with, the prospect, which hopefully leads to a client, right? You treat them like a person. You actually care about what's going on with them. I'm not saying you got to know all their family drama or anything like that, but just to see, well, what is it that they're really struggling with, and where do they see that maybe they're doing something really good. So it's good to know, just to get to know them.
What people love to talk about, Ken?
What?
Themselves. So
really,
asking people how they got into what they did and being genuine about it. How did you reach the success? Like you're asking me, how did you reach the success you're at? The level you're at. I'm really intrigued by it. People love to tell you. You can get people on a phone call whereas you may have failed 100 other times. You approach them and go, hey, I would love to get on a call and just learn how you were able to achieve what you've achieved in your business. and you'll get more call bookings than you probably did with
Yeah,
all these other
absolutely.
tactics, that you learn from all these like regurgitated gurus online.
Well, I think that's the challenge, right? Because I think for a lot of business owners now, especially whether they're new or they just started, that's who they might all suddenly follow. They'll follow the sales marketing gurus to say, apply this technique, or here is the 5-step sales thing, and then you're going to land all your clients, right?
Yeah.
Some cases it's not, right?
One thing I
I think,
can recommend, I've got one of my good friends. Those of you who know Chet Holmes, so Chet Holmes is like he's been coined the godfather of sales. And if you don't know him, look him up. He's got a book called The Ultimate Selling Machine. And if I was going to recommend a book or a resource to somebody to learn about selling, I would recommend that. And that's because I have a good friend that worked directly with Chet when they launched. Chet actually helped Tony Robbins launch Business Mastery. So he was on the
really?
founding team. My friend actually was on that team with them. And so they were at the very first event that ever happened with Business Mastery. And so they used Chet to springboard. So all Chet's techniques, strategies, and philosophies to springboard that organization into what it is today. Now, Chet no longer is with us. He unfortunately passed away from an illness, but his legacy lives on. And I would say if you're really looking to better your sales skills, that's a really, really good place to start.
Well, yeah, you actually topped my next question from my listener was how do you best educate yourself, or in terms of best books or best anything? I think that's a perfect one. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes there. So next question here: Are there some out of the box ideas that you're starting to see that some of your clients are actually trying out, or they might just ask, okay, should I try anything different than what I'm currently doing?
So if you want to know something that's outside of the box in today's world, that is so freaking simple that most people that hear me say it are still not going to do it. Okay. But I'm going to tell you, this thing right here, this is not a computer. It's actually also a phone, right? What if you, and this is craziness, I know for some people to hear this, but one of the things that we also talk with our clients about is I know you've heard this, but the Dream 100. Right. So what that is basically researching and finding, 100 people that would be your ideal clients, and then deploying marketing campaigns, relationship building stuff to those people. One of the things you could do is just call them, because you know why? Nobody else is calling them unless they're somebody that's trying to pitch ERC or, SEO services or something like that. But you calling them and just like I said a minute ago, hey, Ken, understand that you've got this podcast, and I would love to, I know you don't have time right now, but I would love to sit down with you sometime and just really find out how was it you were able to get to where you are right now in your business. Would you be open to that?
Wow. Yes.
And it's like, it's a relationship. It's like, I don't want to sell you anything. I just let me get to know you. And let's see how we might potentially collaborate at some point. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But at the end of the day, maybe I could be your biggest referral partner. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, calling people, what an ideal thought. I mean, I used to telemarketing back in my early 20s. So, I'd be very comfortable with people just yelling and hanging up on me, but that's just, that's based on my history. So it's nice to know that something as simple as that, because like you said, we talked about technology. A lot of people are relying on the technology to do everything for them. And don't get me wrong, it's not bad, because you're thinking, well, if it can make my life easier, why not? But then if you're not doing well and you have all the technology, maybe going back old school might be the best way to try it out.
Well, right? Here's one that'll make that even work better. Find out something that they like and get them some sort of like small gift and just ship it to them. If they could be a really good client for you or a referral partner, ship them something and then call them, right? Because then it's like, hey, I just want to make sure you receive that XYZ I sent you. I noticed that you had a plaque up on your wall and you're interested in whatever, right? So I thought this would be a perfect, gift for you. Just want to make sure you received it. And then guess what? Now you're open. Now the rapport is starting to build. Now you can go to lunch with them. Maybe you can get on a Zoom call. It's about starting that relationship, and it's worth it.
Absolutely. All right. Next question here. So this is just a general question though. how big for a small business, how big should my sales team be before I can start removing myself from the sales?
Well, it just depends on your lead flow, because ideally you want to remove yourself as soon as possible, because you as the business owner, there's a lot of hats to wear. And the more you can realize that you need to delegate to the right people, and the faster you can do that, the better off you are. Now, that's not to say put just any old salesperson in place and no matter what they do, you just stop, right? Because you want to have somebody who can handle that. But I would say it's largely dependent on the lead flow and whether or not you have the sales under control. So if you're good at sales and you've now got somebody else that's good at sales, that's one thing. And you know the sales process. But if you don't know the sales process and you're not good at sales and you don't have all that dialed in, then you're going to probably need some sales training, right? You're going to buy the book, Ultimate Sales Machine, implement that stuff, and get that dialed in, because the sales, you have to make sales in business. You have to. I mean, revenue always in first position, right? You got to have those difficult conversations. That's why I said, pick up the phone and call somebody. Like, I know it sucks, right? It sucks to think about, and sometimes it actually sucks to do it. But if you can get yourself conditioned, instead of saying like, oh, I have to make these calls, to like, I get to make these calls. Why is that a privilege? Because, man, I get to help people with what I do to solve that problem, and they need me more than I need them.
Interesting. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a good way of thinking about it. All right. Excellent. Next question here. All right. What is the best, in your opinion, what is the best compensation for a sales staff? Is it salary, commission only, or salary with commission? Where do you see, for a lot of these business owners that you're seeing, is there anything there that you have an opinion on?
Well, man, I think there's so many different ways you can slice that, apple.
Yep.
I think it just depends on, where you're at in the evolution of your business. Because if you need a really good salesperson, first of all, really good salespeople understand that they want to be on commission only. They're like, no. I know that if you're giving me a base, there's probably some limitation on the commission. Whereas I'd rather get a higher commission and be commission only, as long as you got the lead flow coming through. Those guys and gals, they want to be commission only all day long. Sometimes when you're bringing on some maybe like salespeople that aren't as well developed, or maybe they're in development and they are pretty good, but they're still kind of learning, it might make sense to give them like some sort of base pay or a draw or something to get them going, so that they could either transition out of maybe the current job they're in, or just make enough money while they develop, because maybe you're training them, right? Maybe there's a training period for them. They can't just step in and just start closing sales all of a sudden. They've got to have that warm-up period. So I think all those things have to be considered, because the last thing you want to do is bring on somebody really good and then lose them because the pay structure is all jacked up, right? So,
right. Yeah. Okay. Oh, perfect. So for your revenue capturing specialist, where do you find that where are there some other mistakes you're noticing that small businesses are making where they're not converting?
Yeah, there's all kinds of different reasons behind that. But like, for example, if we're talking about salespeople, some of my best partners have some of the best sales teams that you can get. But the sales teams don't close 100%. The best sales teams might close 25, 30%. You've got the outlier that, is very rare. They might get like in the 40% range. But there's still all these people that are in their pipeline that they're just lingering around, right? Now, some businesses, they have a really good follow-up system, right? So they've got email follow-up. They might have people that are reaching out to those folks over and over. But at some point, if they're not buying, you don't know. A lot of people just don't know what to do with them. And so that's where we come in and we deploy our processes to get more of them to convert. But at the end of the day, it's really looking at your processes and seeing where the holes are. For most businesses I talk to, because our found money offer is a no-brainer. Like we just have to be careful that the people we partner with on that one, that it looks like there could be, a win-win, because it's no brainer for the right people. So
Mhm.
I would say look at your processes, see where the holes are, because almost every business has these holes, and just see how you can start plugging some of those holes. And with salespeople, typically they've got a certain amount of time on that call, and they're restricted, and so they might end up missing a sale because maybe they couldn't have the conversation that they needed to have at the level they needed to have it. Or you've got the salespeople that they just kind of have their go-to tools, right? And if they don't close them, they don't close them, because maybe the lead flow is really good, and there's kind of like, I close the ones I can close with my go-to set of tools, and the ones that don't, they just kind of let them go.
Yeah, no, that's interesting that you would actually think like that too, because that's interesting how you would actually think about it. You're like, oh wow, figure out what the holes are, right? Because for the people that, I guess that, especially for the e-commerce online portion of it, where you have you have shopping carts that no one actually finishes off. What is it, right? I think that's always been, cart abandonment is always something that everyone thinks about. Was it the price? Was it too high? Or was it, was the ordering process really hard? Why aren't they ordering it? Or is there something else, right? Because they added to cart, but then just didn't capture it. So,
Yeah, you'd
no,
be
good to,
surprised. It's like, so one of the guys, I have a brain trust that sits behind me. We meet every week. Well, not sit behind me, but they're on my team. And
yeah.
one of the guys is he was part of the team that helped GoPro go to the $1 billion annual revenue mark. So
Wow.
we meet once a week, and we go over offers for our partners and stuff like that. So one of the things that he put together not too long ago, I forget what company it was, but it was an abandoned cart found money campaign, and thousands upon thousands of people that they were just sitting there, and they just weren't converting. And he went in and cleaned up a whole bunch of them. And so it really is just, it's figuring out where those holes are, and then figuring out how to plug those holes. But also, the other thing that I've noticed, Ken, is there are some companies, like our ideal client for the found money, not the LinkedIn, but the found money, they're usually between like mid 7 to mid 8 figures, okay, in revenue. And a lot of times it's not worth it to them to go after those other people that are just lingering around, because it costs them too much money, because they got so much flow coming in that it's just kind of it's more of a liability. So when we come along and we're like, hey, we'll bolt our process on and do this, it's like, it's a game changer. Plus it's a no brainer, because they know that the cost to go after those leads at a certain point, there's just a diminishing return, if that makes sense.
Interesting. So, all right. Last question we have here is, what is your best tip for a work-life balance?
Work-life balance. I would say, there's this hustle till you die culture.
Yeah.
I think that's fine, and I think it's probably a necessity in the beginning. But I think to have that culture be the culture forever, I think it's very damaging, because
Yeah. It's not healthy.
we don't get into business to spend every waking hour work, 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 work. Even if we love what we do, you have family. Like, I have a family. Like, there's no way I'm gonna hustle, 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 and spend all my time, and then one day look at my kids and they're already grown up and go, "Whoa, I missed their childhood," right?
Well, yeah,
So
absolutely.
I would say just learn how to manage your time. Like, time block. Time blocking is a really good strategy. That, number one, you get it done. So, hey, if you're going to make phone calls and you put it on your calendar, hey, for this hour, I'm just going to make phone calls. I don't care. I'm going to do it. It's on my calendar. That's just the way it is. Same thing with any of your marketing activities, all that stuff. I think if you time block it, then you live by that time block, and you also live by the time block where you block off time to be with your family. It's like on the weekends, as well as I do as an entrepreneur, you can work all the time. You
Yeah.
can. There's always something that can be done.
There's always something. That's the thing, right? That's the, I used to detail cars, and the thing is, I wasn't one of those mobile guys that would go to your home. 99% of my clients would actually come to the house. They just drop their car off, and either my wife, Mrs. K, would drive them back, or they have like a family friend that would drive them there, and then they'll just come back to pick up the car afterwards. And I remember that I would only book it on weekends because I had my day job that I was working. So my kids were at home while I'm trying to do this on the weekends. And, sometimes they got upset. And these are when they're really young. They're like, oh, because, you're working from home,
Yeah.
but I can't be with them. And they
Yeah.
look at it, they're like, Daddy's working again. Right.
Yeah.
So my kids know me as a guy that I work a lot. Right. And I'm doing podcasting and all this sort of stuff. There's 2 podcasts I do all the time. And, a lot of this stuff and the testing that I do, as well as like the website mobile app testing that I do, is also something that takes up time too. So trying to block it out is actually a really good practice that I think a lot of owners should definitely try. At least start off small. Don't time block everything. Like the time block you're going to go to the bathroom or anything, but
yeah, be realistic.
yeah, be realistic. You don't want to have a colored, you look at your calendar, you don't want everything in different colors. And
check this out. You see that? This is a
Yep.
timer. So this timer, check, look at this. You can adjust it, and then you click the button, and it counts down. And when it's done, it's done. So this might be a really good recommendation for everybody watching and listening. This little timer, I can't remember. It's like $15 or something on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. I was going to say.
Yeah, and you know what? I didn't have to ask any questions, so I didn't need that. But anyway, now this is pretty self-explanatory. But this is great for like time blocking. Also, as a if you do things in chunks of time, you don't get fatigued and mentally exhausted like you would if you just like sit down and you're like, I'm gonna stay here until it's done. I don't care if it takes 2 days. You're like, don't do that. Your best work doesn't come out of that kind of thing.
No, when you force it like that, no, right? Like that's why. And outsource when you can. That's another best tip that I think a lot of my guests would say. Like I've outsourced my editing services because I tried doing it all myself, and it is not worth it. No. Right. So I have
at some point, you got to learn. At some point, it goes back to the leverage. You're trying to create time leverage, and so a lot of and I told you earlier, I share a lot of my best stuff on webinars and stuff like that. So at some point, I know that either they're gonna like get so busy that they can't handle it themselves, and they'll come back and ask me to take care of it for them, or they're already there, right? But at some point, a business will always realize that doing this kind of stuff is it's not their wheelhouse. They got to focus on what their genius zone is and where they should be putting their energy to.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's do the rapid fire round.
Now it's time for the rapid fire round.
These are some really fast questions. We'll try to see if we can get them all done. All right. First question. Which word or phrase do you most overuse?
Probably or ah.
Or ah. Okay. All right. Second question. What would the 15-year-old self be thinking you'd be doing right now?
Playing Major League Baseball.
What position?
Utility.
Nice. Jack of all trades. Jack or Jill of all trades.
Yeah.
Master of none. That's great. Okay. Next question here. What is something that most people are obsessed with that you just don't get?
Material things.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. My listeners know my thing is Wordle. I still don't get it. People love it. I just don't get it. My family likes durian fruit. I really don't like it. I've tried it. I just don't get it. So material things. Excellent. Because anything can be bought. So that's I could probably see that. Yeah. All right. Would you rather go 30 days without your phone or an entire life without dessert?
I'd probably say 30 days without my phone because I need to do that anyway.
Yeah.
I probably don't need the dessert though.
Well, one of my favorite guests, I think it was Brian Francis for BTech Solutions, which is also a marketing company as well. But he I used to work with him before at a previous company, and he looked at me, he's like, Ken, you're the devil. You're an evil person because he's a marketer. He needs his phone, but he also loves dessert. So I tried to find him. I tried to give him a way out. I said, your phone, that doesn't necessarily mean if you have a tablet, you can't still use it, but enough of here.
Right.
Next.
Technicalities.
Yes, exactly. All right. I always ask all my guests here. All right. What is on your sandwich and what would you call it?
Like if you were to name a sandwich after me?
Sure.
I would say a fried egg,
Ooh.
some sirloin steak,
Oh.
provolone cheese, onions, green peppers, and put that on some nice rosemary Parmesan bread.
Wow. All right. What's the name of it?
We'll call it the Tony.
The Tony. Put it on a shirt. All right. Last question we have here on the rapid fire round here is, what is your theme song and why? So you're walking down the street, that song hits, everyone knows that Anthony's coming.
Eye of the Tiger.
That you're like the second guest in a row. I recorded another podcast guest. That is their go-to song. Nothing wrong with Eye of the Tiger. Just get you pumped, eh?
All about determination and just, a lot of times success I'm sure you're already aware of this, but like a lot of times the success comes from just having the stubbornness to not give up. And in fact, my family, you ask my kids what the S.M.Es never do. You know what they're going to say? The S.M.Es never give up. Gave my wife a blanket last year, had a bunch of our pictures on it. And in the middle, it says S.M.E family never gives up, because that's our theme.
That's a family motto, man. That's your principle. That's really great. So any final advice you would give to anyone who's either trying to start a business or they're in their business and they're struggling, any other general advice you want to give them?
You got to keep going. I know people say that all the time, but you have to keep going, because if it were easy, everybody would reach success. You are going to struggle. We are not promised to not have troubles in this life, right? And that goes for business too. It's the people that understand that, they embrace it. They look at it like, hey, what can I learn from this struggle and how can I get better? Those are the ones that reach the high levels of success. So I would say massive imperfect action, consistently, every day, no matter what happens, learn from the mistakes, understand you're going to hit challenges. I don't care where you're at in business. Everybody has them. And just take, when you think about that, just realize that you're not alone, and it's just part of the game. And if you do that, I think you're going to reach success. You're just bound to.
Excellent. No, that's great to hear. So where can people reach out to you and contact you?
So they can go to my website at anthonysimone.com, or they can reach out to me by email at anthonysimone.com. There's a free guide if you want. Like a lot of people appreciate, I've got a LinkedIn guide if you want to learn how to optimize your profile. If they text guide to a number, we'll send it over to them to download, and I can get you that information too, if that'll be helpful.
Absolutely, it would be. So, all right, Anthony, thanks for being on the show. It was a pleasure.
It's an honor. Thanks for having me, Ken. Appreciate it.
Hey you, do you need a voiceover? Well, look no farther. Northway Capital Group has your answer. Commercials and explainer videos, AVR and voicemail, health and wellness, corporate training and e-learning, announcements, documentaries, and biography. Contact us on social media or email us at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to the S.M.E Stories podcast, which is owned by Northway Capital Group. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Northway Capital Group.